don't get me wrong. There's so many things I love about America. I just hate what it's become.
What do you think it's become?
I think the lies of what America is has been exposed. When I learned about Palestine, I learned about in 2014. Previous to that, I thought Israel was the one that was always being attacked.
What has bothered you most over the last 14 months, seeing the images coming out of Gaza on Instagram, on social media?
It's hard as a mom, more than anything. Damn it, I don't want to cry.
Sorry.
Do you make people cry on the show?
No.
I don't want to be your first guest that cries.
What we do now on this issue could cost us everything you spent 15 years building up. But we're still going to do it because it matters. Mm-hmm. You don't want people who support genocide to use your product.
Absolutely not. You're not allowed.
You're not allowed.
No, I hope they don't ever use it. I don't want them to. Even before Huda Beauty, I was such a diva. This diva that you see, I was the same. I was the same. I don't know.
You were a broke diva.
I was a broke diva.
But I've never run a business in my life. People tell me, friends of mine, like, what are you doing? Yeah. You can't run a business. You have no business skills. You can't be a CEO.
I think you're going to change the world.
I'm Mehdi Hassan.
And I'm Huda Kattan.
And we are not kidding. A podcast from Zeteo. And I'm joined today not by a comedian, but by a creative, artistic, entrepreneurial powerhouse in her own right. Huda Kattan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So, Huda, I think it's fair to say that you and I may have slightly different audiences.
Maybe.
So I want to take a moment to introduce you to my audience who may not be fully aware of what it is you do in your work. Let me know if I miss anything. Huda is a makeup artist, social media star, reality TV host, philanthropist, activist, entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Huda Beauty, which is one of the world's fastest growing cosmetics companies, available in stores all across the world, and now the most followed beauty brand on Instagram with more than 54 million followers.
Have you been Googling me?
I have a lot of Googling. Did I miss anything? Was my Googling?
It was pretty good. Okay. It was pretty good.
So we're here in London right now, which is a city where I grew up.
Yeah.
You were born in Oklahoma.
I was born in Oklahoma.
What are you doing in London right now? Why are we in London?
Well, I mean, I was born in Oklahoma, but I didn't grow up there. I didn't spend any time. I did
grow up in Tennessee.
I grew up in Tennessee.
Okay.
And I say that like with I feel like my face looks like it's a face of disgust. And it shouldn't be, because Tennessee is a beautiful place, but I had a really hard upbringing there. Being like this brown Muslim person in a place full of like
So
like
funny you should
anything.
say that, because I grew up in Swindon, Wiltshire.
Where's that?
So Swindon is about 2 hours from here, where we're sitting in London. It's in kind of southwest England.
Okay.
It's a kind of middle of nowhere, Booneyland type place.
Same?
And in the I don't know now because I haven't been back but when I was born in 79, so in the early 80s in elementary school, or what we call primary school. Yeah. My sister and I were the only brown people in the entire school.
So you know the pain.
I know the pain.
See, a lot of people don't understand this. I talked to my husband, who's Portuguese. He was raised Christian, converted to Islam. Okay. But he actually grew up amongst his people.
Okay.
I don't understand what that feels like.
No.
I can't even comprehend it. All I know is what it feels like to be an outsider.
I do think Tennessee must have been harder than Swindon.
I don't know. I mean, it was hard. It was really hard. And I definitely felt like so many things that were tough. But I wonder if that also makes us so outspoken. I wonder if that's the reason why we're so loud. Maybe. Like, hey, we're here. Hello.
Yeah, to stand out.
Yeah, I wonder.
I'm very loud, and I think people would agree on that. Actually, I do want to talk to you about stuff you've been outspoken about. I do want to talk about Gaza, for example. Before we get to that, though, there's a lot to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I've got to say,
let's open it.
I've never had so many people, especially women in my life, excited about the fact that I was interviewing you. Do you know, there's an army of people who like want me to give you messages, requests. It's insane. Like, with the respect, I've interviewed presidents and prime ministers across the world. But the reaction I had when I said, I'm going to London to interview Huda Kattan. And they were like, what?
I'm way more fun. Trust me.
Definitely. Well, we're going to find out. So here's another interesting thing. So you were born in Oklahoma. Yeah. Your parents are from Iraq.
Yep. They immigrated to America.
And then you grew up in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I got to ask the question all brown people ask each other. And I asked it to Bassem, I asked it to Riz, I asked it to Hassan Minhaj the other day on this show. We had considered calling We're Not Kidding, We Should Have Been Doctors as the title for the show.
Or engineers.
Did you get that growing up? Because look, I'm in a non-traditional
that.
job. My mother is perpetually disappointed.
Are they ashamed of you?
My mother, they're not ashamed, with respect. They're brown parents. They're never. But my mother is a doctor. My father's an engineer. So they're as cliched DSC parents. And both my sister and I are journalists. Wow. So we kind of didn't follow the tradition. And then you didn't follow a traditional career path, I'm sure, for Iraqi families.
No, I'm the black sheep of the family. Yeah.
You were. Not now, surely.
I still
as successful as you are.
I mean, look, hey, there's nothing wrong with being a black sheep. I think black sheep are beautiful. Okay. They're, in my opinion, they're rare.
But you didn't go the normal career path.
I definitely didn't. And I think I'm also, my family, you know, I don't know if it's like many Iraqi families are like this, but my family's like this, where my mom is very much about keeping the peace and about like being polite, being nice. And I think that drove me crazy growing up because I just wanted to say what was on my mind. I thought like people would be much happier if we just said what was on our mind.
Were you quite blunt in school?
I'm always.
Did they get you in trouble?
Oh yeah.
I got in trouble a lot.
Oh my God.
I'm feeling this weird bum.
I know. I feel like my big brother.
I spent a lot of time in my childhood in the hallway.
I was in the principal's office.
Yeah, I didn't even make it to principal's. I just stayed in the hallway.
Oh my God, they really didn't like you.
No, because I didn't put my hand up.
Oh.
That was my problem. My mother would get very upset in parent-teacher evenings.
Oh, wow.
Because I would just shout out the answers.
Wait, so you have a sister?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the age difference between you guys?
4 years.
Have you read that book about what is it called, birth order theory?
No.
Okay, so who's elder?
I'm younger.
You're younger. Ooh. Interesting.
I'm
4
the baby
years
of the family.
You're the baby of the family.
But I was very. I mean, look, I wrote a book called Win Every Argument. And I say in that book, it was a very outspoken.
Love
family.
that book.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I say there that I grew up in a very disputatious household. Like
wow.
my mother less so, but definitely my father, my mother to a degree, my sister. We're all pretty loud people. I think everyone would know the Hassan family as a pretty loud family. Is everyone in your family like that? Or just you?
No.
So you are the one.
I'm the only one.
Even out of your siblings?
Out of my siblings. No, everybody's very quiet. Everybody's very nice.
So
very
why do you think you're that way?
I don't know. I think I'm the one.
Was it Tennessee?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think it was Tennessee. I think it's my birth order. You have to read this book. It's actually amazing. It's called Birth Order.
Okay, I'm going to look it up.
And I am pretty predictable. My personality is pretty predictable based on that. But I'm the firstborn because there was like a gap. You have to read this book. It's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
but
I'm loud.
I don't think there's anything predictable about you. I think we're going to come to your career path in a second. But before we get to that, I'm fascinated by Tennessee because I'm in the US now. I'm an immigrant from the UK to the US. I've been living there nearly 10 years. I'm a citizen. Obviously, my time in the US has coincided with the rise of Trump and MAGA and really, really bad. I mean, there was always anti-Muslim racism post 9/11, but really bad Islamophobia and racism and bigotry, which we're going to get even more of in 2025 with Trump back. Yeah. Just wondering, for you, Tennessee in the 80s, was it an issue being an Arab? Were people aware that you were from a place called Iraq?
No, actually. It was really hard actually growing up there. My parents, I think we all struggled with people even understanding where Iraq was where it was on the map. But during the Iraq War, my parents actually got a lot of hate. And people who were friends with them for years just stopped talking to them. And it was really difficult. And it came to a point where I became very ashamed of where I was from. And I thought there was something wrong with being Iraqi from a very young age. And I remember seeing it. I must have been like 7 or 8 and seeing my parents go through this.
This is first Gulf War, 1991.
Yeah. I was 7 and my parents were just completely ostracized and people were treating me like I did something wrong. It was really, really hard. And there was just, I mean, you definitely felt like, I think a child growing up in the 80s, I can't imagine growing up now in America in a place like Tennessee. But it was really, really hard. And like my teachers were even really mean to me. Yeah, it was really, really hard.
That's awful.
It was awful. I remember
sad listening to this.
Honestly.
But it made you who you are.
Exactly.
It toughened you up.
No, when I think about my childhood, it was sad. I hated it so much. But now I'm very grateful for those moments. I feel like they did make me, it sounds really cliche, but it did make me tough. And I'm allowed to swear?
Yeah.
I'm a tough bitch.
Okay. I thought you were going to say motherfucker.
No.
Okay. I don't want permission. I don't know what levels we're getting to. Tough bitch. Fine.
We'll get there eventually.
Also, you mentioned it. So you've just reminded me, 2003 is the Iraq War. You're what, in college then?
Yeah, actually, it's this is the craziest thing. This is what actually blew my mind. This is when I started to realize that the news was screwing us all up. Because I never realized that. Growing up in America, growing up as a person, and by the way, I think you have big guts to move to America right now with the way that it is. Because honestly, like the way that I feel when I go to America, my mom who wears hijab, we just go into Target. People are like circling her, saying harassing things to her. Like I don't
recently?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And we're outside of Boston. Like I think you're very, very courageous to live there. Or I don't know if it's courageous or stupid.
Bit of both.
Maybe a bit of both.
Love for my wife.
Yeah, okay.
You don't live in the US anymore.
No.
Where do you live?
I live in Dubai.
And do you miss the US?
No.
You don't?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Like friends?
No, of course I miss some friends. I miss my husband's family. But the culture there has changed. It's really sad. It makes me sad. Of course, I miss the people. I don't love the politics. It's a lie. And that's like the hard thing. So 2003, watching the Iraq war unfold, growing up in America, watching, and I had just moved to Dubai. In 2002, I moved to Dubai. And I was in between debating whether or not I was going to move back to the States because my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was living there. And so I was like, I want to move back to America for him. And I was kind of in between the two places. And I was watching the news in Dubai on the Iraq war, and I was watching in America. Two different worlds.
Yes.
I couldn't believe. Like my sister who was living in Dubai didn't know the news I was watching in America. And I didn't know.
You were like, there are WMDs.
Yes. I didn't understand propaganda. And that was the moment where I was like, holy shit. We are being lied to. We're being told stories for the sake of specific agendas. And that was a moment. That was a moment for me because I actually got to live it and experience. I got to live and experience two different worlds. And it just blew my mind.
So interesting you should say that because all of the polling and studies of people, we know it's become a cliche to say people don't trust the media anymore. They don't trust politicians.
Yeah, of course not.
A lot of that tracks back to 2003. If you look at the graphs, it's the Iraq War, the big lies that George Bush and Tony Blair told about WMDs. Wow. Then you have the financial crisis in 2008. And then you keep going. That all this people feel like they've been lied to on multiple occasions. But it does go back to Iraq. I know all the Western politicians want to move on from Iraq, but it was a major rupture. It wasn't just a horrible illegal war that killed people, but as you say, it exposed the propaganda.
See, and that's what people are failing to realize. Like when I learned about Gaza did not happen now. I learned about Palestine and Gaza in 2014. I actually, previous to that, and I know you said we're going to get into that, but before 2014, I actually thought I had been brainwashed because I remember, and this is still something that drives me crazy. Like I know growing up in America, and don't get me wrong, there's so many things I love about America. I just hate what it's become. I hate what it's become.
What do you think it's become?
I think the lies of what America has been exposed. And if you think about it, it's really crazy, but we've been told to celebrate so many horrible things. It's like there's a horrible thing that happens. Like, I mean, let's take Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving just passed, for instance. It's a horrible thing what they did to Native Americans, and then they put a holiday on it.
So true.
It's crazy. Like, this is madness, and this is exactly what's happening now. People are exposing America for what it is. Like, and people who are naive, which I happen to be one of those people who were very naive for so long, our eyes are opened. And you can't unsee it anymore. And so when I learned about Palestine, I learned about in 2014. Previous to that, I thought Israel was the one that was always being attacked. And I went to my husband, who's Portuguese American, always has loved politics. He's a big fan of yours, by the way. Huge fan. He's like, he had to come. He had to come.
We're going to chat after.
Oh my God, he's an amazing man, by the way. A very calm man, very patient man, like always zen. He's that kind of person who just
fits with you perfectly.
I think so. He calms me down, or maybe I spice him up. I don't know. But it's so interesting. I said to him, I was like, Chris, what's happening in Palestine, Israel? And like, I'm really upset. Like all these people in Gaza are being bombed, but why did they do this to Israel in the first place? That was literally the rhetoric that I had.
Despite being an Arab American.
My parents tried to teach me.
You'd been so, what's the word? Propagandized. Indoctrinated brain.
Totally indoctrinated. Totally. Like I learned so many very deep stories about the Holocaust, which I think it's important to learn everything, but I never learned about the Nakba.
Yep.
Never heard the word Nakba. Never heard it before in my life. Actually, not until last year. One of my Palestinian employees said to me, she was like, I think it's going to be a second Nakba. And I was like, what is that? Never heard of it before. And I have so many friends who are from like Ireland. They're like, we're taught this stuff. And I was like, you're taught it in school? I can't believe it. It's almost like hidden. And so anyways, in 2014, I said to him, I was like, what is happening? And why are Palestinians, why are they bothering Israelis? Why are they doing this? And he was like, no, fuck that. And he got really upset. And I was like, oh my God, why is my husband getting so upset? And he started educating me.
Good issue to get upset about. Some people get upset about doing the dishes, the trash. Your husband's like, Palestine.
Yeah,
fuck that.
100%. Exactly. That was exactly his reaction. And he educated me. And after that, I became very passionate. So it's funny what you're saying. Things like this, really do. And I think right now, this moment that happened in 2023, people don't realize it, but we're never going to be able, like the world, Israel specifically, is never going to be able to undo what people see now. What has happened right now for a lot of people?
It's like another Iraq war, and for a lot of people,
it's much worse.
For another generation, much worse.
Much
in
worse.
Terms of the propaganda.
What's happening right now for a lot of people started in 2014. So what's going to happen in the next 10 years started last year.
So we're into it now, so let's just get into it.
Let's get into it.
I'm going to come back to other things I want to talk about. Since we're on Gaza, since October the 7th, 2023, you have spoken out on multiple occasions on this issue. As you say, you came to the topic late. You had been indoctrinated as a child, despite being an Arab American. Your husband educates you in 2014. Your employees are giving you tips. That's all great. A lot of people have the knowledge. Not everyone wants to speak out. What makes you think, you know what? I am running this massive business, this massive global beauty company, this brand. We have deals with Sephora and Boots here in the UK and all sorts of stuff. Do I really want to touch the third rail of American politics? Do I really want to touch this issue that has destroyed people's careers?
I mean, I think I always felt like at one point I was going to have to make a decision. You know, I always felt like that. Like always, as a Muslim, I always felt one day there's going to be a situation where I'm going to have to pick a side. And I knew that.
Interesting.
And so I felt like that was that moment. You know, and I had to pick a side. And I made this comment online where I said something to someone who said like a really like just disgraceful comment about people in Gaza and their situation. They were like, I forget what it was. It was a horrible comment. And I replied back to them and I was like, I don't want your blood money. And that went viral. And then I got ridiculed. I got pulled into a room. And I was just like made to feel
pulled
like,
by who? Who pulls Huda Kattan into a room?
A lot of people pulled me into a room who were concerned about the comment.
They're like,
they were like, you could have handled this better. And I was like, absolutely not. And they were like, you need to go delete the comment. And I was like, I'm not going to delete it. And
they're like, we're just looking out for you.
A little more harsh than that.
Okay.
A little bit more like, what are you doing? You're going to ruin everything. And we had just gone through this crazy restructuring. We had just spent like, I had removed our CEO in 2021 from the business, got back into the position, spent like the last 2 years rebuilding the business. Was so excited for 2024. I was like, 2024 is going to be the year because we've been like building everything. And I was like, fuck, this is the moment we're throwing everything away. And I pulled my husband to the room. I was like, Chris, I was like, this is the moment where I'm sorry, like all the hard work we've done is going to be undone and we're probably going to lose everything. And he said to me, he was like, you know what? Fuck it. We'll rebuild it. And I was like, that's why I love you. And so he was like, I'm going to support you, be outspoken.
So you both make a conscious decision at that moment that what we do now on this issue could cost us everything you spent 15 years building up, but we're still going to do it because it matters. That makes you an activist, I think.
I don't know.
You're someone who's literally activism. You're saying, I'm going to speak out. Do you consider yourself an activist? I
mean, it's so funny. I talked to my husband about this. I'm like, I want to be an activist. I consider myself a person who cares about humanity a lot, very much.
But we could call you a philanthropist, right? Like you've given, I've got the numbers here. You gave, mashallah, $1 million to 2 humanitarian organizations in Gaza, Doctors Without Borders and Human Appeal. You and your sister gave money to Lebanese Red Cross. You're clearly a philanthropist, but if you're taking a lot of people, you know this better than me, a lot of people in your world, a lot of celebrities, a lot of people in California, they've done the kind of, we want to give money and we care about people, but they won't take a political position on right and wrong. They won't criticize the Israeli government. They won't say the phrase blood money like you have. They won't talk about truth and justice. So do you feel like you're doing that because you want to take a stance, you want to change the world? And if that's the case, that makes you an activist.
I mean, I would love to be called an activist, to be honest. I feel like it's an honor to be called that. But I just feel like it's my responsibility, you know, like I've built what I've built and I feel like it's all not been given to me. You know, God has given this to me. I have to do good with it, you know? So
what's disturbed you most, if you don't mind me asking? I know you're a mother, I'm a parent as well. I often ask guests this because we can just talk about Gaza in abstract, but you spend a lot of time on social media, I know this. How much has seeing those images, what has bothered you most since over the last 14 months, seeing the images coming out of Gaza on Instagram, on social media?
It's hard as a mom, more than anything. Damn it, I don't want to cry.
Sorry.
Do you make people cry on the show?
No.
Okay, good. I don't want to cry. I don't want to be your first guest that cries. I think as a mom, it's the hardest thing. Like you see your children and the children in Gaza. You see your parents and the elderly. You see, you see yourself. I think it's hard not to see yourself in what's happening.
It's awful.
It's awful.
I've never seen, like we talked about the Iraq War. I always thought that the Iraq war would be the worst atrocity of my lifetime.
Yeah.
And it would be the biggest kind of media political
and I wish we had
hypocrisy
social
of my
then.
lifetime.
I wish we had social. So
But
I could have done something
I know,
then.
but Gaza is Iraq war on steroids in many ways, both in terms of the level of killings, both in terms of the media complicity. I mean, the complete and utter abject failure.
Yeah.
Even today, still to say the G word, you cannot say genocide. People will lose their minds. But what else do you call the kind of ongoing mass extermination of people on a daily basis?
It's so crazy because I feel like some people are just so sensitive to some things, but meanwhile they can just get away with whatever they want to get away with. Yeah. And it just doesn't make any sense. And this is the thing, like so many people nowadays, the youth is really what I'm very optimistic about the youth.
Yeah. Were you inspired by the college campus protests?
Very inspired by that. Yeah. And I mean, you have a daughter, you have 2 daughters. Their eyes are so open, and all of their friends, by the way, are the same. And it's really inspiring. I love to see that. Like children nowadays, they really care about good. They care about how they spend their money.
Yes.
Like they really, really care. And as a businesswoman, that gives me a little bit of hope because sometimes it's hard to do the right thing, but you see that and you're like, I think there's a world where this is going to work, doing the right thing, being actually careful with your business and not being so opportunistic will pay off in the long run.
You know who doesn't always do the right thing, unlike our youth, are a lot of celebrities, a lot of public figures.
Don't even get me started. I'm so over them.
Well, you are over them. And again, you're someone who is seen as someone who was very well connected when you were coming up, through your business, through your career. You obviously know a lot of famous people. And again, and I have to say this, what I admire about you, having done my homework on you, is that you didn't just say, okay, my business, I'm going to support Palestine, I'm going to give money. You also went online and called out the silence of some of these people. And I think we have a clip.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're going to play a clip. Let's play the clip.
I'm looking at so many celebrities right now with their platforms and how they're just silent. They're silent. And I'm thinking to myself, their platforms, their popularity is for their own vanity. It's not for humanity. And if your platform is for your own vanity, I'm sorry. I can't support you.
Did you lose a lot of friends over that clip?
I lost friends before the clip. I cut them off.
You had a falling out with Eva Longoria, I believe, who was a friend of yours.
Yeah.
Oh, on this issue?
Mm-hmm. I actually haven't said it out loud, but yeah, I was really upset with her.
Why?
Yeah. Because she's supposed to be a humanitarian, and when it really came down to it, and I was just learning a lot of things about who she really was. And we had a conversation. And look, she's not the only person who was outspoken for Israel. She took a stance. She wanted to support Israel. Many of my friends did. Many of my friends took a very specific stance. And I had words with them. And I said, look, can you please learn? Like, I also understand you're in Hollywood, but you should be really careful with what you're saying publicly. And most of them were really amazing about it. They were like, you know what, I'm going to go get educated. I'm going to learn. And sometimes we didn't agree on everything, right? But at least they took the stance to promise that they would continue learning.
But not Eva Longoria.
I was disappointed with her.
Can I not watch Desperate Housewives anymore?
You know what? You can, because Brie, there's another girl in there.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. Yeah, she's amazing. And Eva and I were actually friends for 10 years. And she's reached out to me a few times since then.
Marsha Cross, who played Brie Van de Kamp.
Marsha Cross
is amazing.
I actually never saw Desperate Housewives.
We love you, Marsha
Yeah,
Cross.
we love you. Actually never saw Desperate Housewives ever, which I know is crazy.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
You watched it and I didn't?
All of it.
Wait a second.
My wife and I
You're
loved
joking,
it.
right?
I'm not joking at all.
You watched Desperate Housewives?
How do you think I just rolled out Brie Van de Kamp, Marsha Cross? Did you see me Google? Came straight from here.
Wow.
Terry Hatcher.
I'm impressed.
Marsha Cross, Eva Longoria, Felicity Huffman, who went to prison for her kids' college stuff.
Oh, wow.
Or did she go to prison? Well, she was convicted for something.
That's really sad.
I mean, it's just celebrities and friends.
Yeah.
You also have the business angle, right? So you got a change.org petition went out with people trying to get Huda Beauty removed from Sephora because of your advocacy on this position. What happened between you and Sephora? Sephora have your back?
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about. At the end of the day, I think they didn't know what to do. Like, I will say that. They were kind of like confused on how to handle it.
Do these petitions worry you?
They worry me because, at the end of the day, Sephora is my retailer around the world. They've actually been, I think they don't know how to handle things. At the end of the day, we're still there. We're still there, and we're doing very well there. We are, I think, their fastest growing brand globally.
Congratulations.
I think so. I'm almost positive. I mean, they won't ever tell you that, but I think so based on our stats. And that's all because of our amazing community and people who've gone out to support.
Just to be clear so people know, what is your position on, for example, using products that might be associated with the war, with the conflict? Do you have a position on BDS? Have you taken a position?
Do you want to know what my position is? It's pretty harsh.
Okay.
So this is my personal position. Okay. So I will sometimes still buy the products, but I will do it for research because I'm going to knock them off.
Okay.
And sell their products. Like, I don't care.
Okay.
So I will never buy a I will never actually support MAC Cosmetics publicly, but I'll buy their products to see, maybe I want to rip them off. And I'm sorry, I don't like to do that kind of shit because I'm like, I don't think it's cool when makeup brands rip people off, but I hate them.
When you say rip people off, what does that mean? It means
so
you do your own better version.
I might do a better version. Okay. I haven't yet because I haven't found anything I liked. But if I do.
But she's coming for you.
But I'm coming for you.
I just want to make this clear as well, because I've done my homework.
I hate them.
You take, and people will say, you know what some people say? They'll say, oh, look at Huda Kattan. She only cares about Palestine. Why doesn't she care about anything else? But what's interesting is, in the summer of 2020, in the middle of the George Floyd protests, and you were not living in the US then, still in Dubai?
Yeah.
You donated $500,000 to the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. And you've also said, and I want to quote from you recently, I think companies need to change their approach to situations like Palestine, like Black Lives Matter. Often they're thinking what's in the best decision for the business. When we're speaking about anything political, I'm always thinking about as a human first.
Of course.
You say, of course, but a lot of people don't say this, Huda.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're saying it, but I've interviewed people who would never say this.
You know, I think that businesses think too much with their wallets, and I understand. Like, I totally get it. I meet so many other, business founders, people within the space. They're always so careful about what they're going to say, and I get it. Like, I'm a risk to my business. I am. I totally am. But like also at the same time.
But then would you say that to another CEO or business leader who comes to you? Let's say someone comes to you and says, Huda, like you, I run this huge $1 billion business. I want to speak out like you are, but I'm worried.
Yeah. What
would you say to them? Would you say, oh, well, you're going to be a risk? That's not really going to encourage them to come
forward. No.
Like, what would you say to them? What advice would you give
I would say at the end of the day, and this is what I've told people.
Worry about your akhirat.
Worry about your akhirah for sure. But more than anything, I've been publicly outspoken about Palestine for a long time. I've had people in Israel burn my palettes, like horribly. Like we had this huge movement a couple years ago, I want to say 3-4 years ago, where people were like absolutely boycotting us, burning our palettes. They didn't want us in Israel. I pulled out of it. We were supposed to launch in Israel. And I was like, you know what? I want to be there for some of the people out there who are not pro-genocide, but I just don't. We decided not to be there. And they just were very upset with us.
Yeah. Hopefully they haven't written your name on a rocket like they did for the Hadids.
I mean.
That's what they did. They literally wrote people's names on rockets. It's crazy.
Wow.
But you took that stance.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I always think like, you don't want everybody using your products.
That is a bold statement for a CEO to make.
But I'm not for everyone.
You don't want people who support genocide to use your products?
Absolutely not. You're not allowed.
You're not allowed.
No, I hope they don't ever use it. I don't want them to. I know it sounds horrible because you should be products for everyone, but I'm not discriminating against looks, religions, anything. It's like
it's the ideology.
It's the ideology, your philosophy. Yeah,
and you're supporting of killing.
Don't buy our products.
I mean, my friend Owen Jones, who I do a segment with, who's a British journalist here, he says the same thing, which is what we've seen people be okay with, I don't think we can ever unsee. I think we, like you said about some of your friends and celebrities.
Are they really okay though? Are they really okay with that?
Who's okay with it?
Are people really okay with seeing what they are seeing?
Well, they have been, right? There are people in my industry, in the news media, who've been totally fine with this. Some have supported it, the worst of the worst, but also the ones who are cravenly silent, have just turned a blind eye. I don't think I can ever forgive those people. I don't think I'll ever be the same with those people forever.
I'm with you.
I think in 20 years' time, I will still say,
yeah,
I remember what you were like in Gaza.
And that's the thing. I feel like now, looking back, like I said, I have friends who have cut off, who tried to reach out to me to talk to them again. And I'm like, I can't get past this with you.
Genocide's a deal breaker.
It's a deal breaker. Like if you want to use your platform on one side, but you can't use it on the other side after so much time has passed, I just can't look you in the eyes. I can't sit with you. I can't break bread with you. I can't pretend like we're good. I can't kiki with you. Like I can't talk to you because I just can't unsee you as someone as I don't respect.
Have you always been like this?
I always have been like this. Yeah, always.
Just very heartfelt. I'm going to be genuine, not fake bullshit.
Since I was a young girl, I have not changed at all. And can you believe this? Even before Huda Beauty, I was such a diva. This diva that you see, I was the same. I was the same. I don't know.
You were a broke diva.
I was a broke diva.
Okay.
But the biggest diva. I'm the exact same person.
I love the fact that you were a broke diva. So you're like, I need to be a diva, actual diva.
Oh my God. You want to hear something so funny? I'm always been this like very complicated person and like I always like held my time to such a high standard. I remember 2008, I just got fired. right before I started Huda Beauty.
It was a financial crash time, right?
Financial crisis time. Well, yes. And, I got fired. And I remember my husband was like, he was my boyfriend at the time. Well, he was my fiance. And he was like, let's get married. Like, you have time now. And I was like, I'm really busy.
You have time to get married?
Yeah. I was like, I'm really busy.
You put it in the schedule?
Yeah. And I was like, well, I have time in the next 3 weeks. I'm like, what was I doing? I was broke. I had no job. Why did I have to get married in 3 weeks? And I've just always been like that. And he was like, okay.
Well, since we're going back to that period, 2010 then is when you launched Huda Beauty. Am I right?
2010 is when I launched the blog. Yeah. And 2013 is when we launched the brand.
And did you have the plan at the time? Were you one of those people who's Chinese Communist Party? You were like, in 5 years, I'm going to be here. In 10 years, I'm going to be here. In 15 years, I'm going to be where I am.
I mean,
today.
yes and no, because like for me to think that I could have built what I built, I would have never believed it. Everybody has his own self-sabotage. I had a ton of that. I still have it. Like even coming today, I was so nervous. I was so nervous.
Nervous about what?
I was nervous to see you.
Me? Why would I make you nervous?
Because I'm such a big fan of yours. And I just think you're so incredible. And what you do for Muslims and what you do for minorities and for brown people. I mean,
I thought you were going to say you were intimidated by us. I'm glad that's not what made you nervous.
No, I think you're just so incredible.
Oh, that's so nice.
My sister introduced me to you many years ago. And I pre-ordered your book and I waited for it and I listened to it. I did audiobook.
Audiobook is amazing.
I love the audiobook. I love that you talk on it.
love it. Well, no, I'm not going to say it's not amazing for me. It's amazing because we went and got all the clips.
Yeah.
I love the fact that we managed to go find all the things that I reference. It's really fun. Listen to the audiobook. There's a plug for the book. Thank you so much.
It's so good.
But on the business now is worth, I believe, like $1 billion. Mashallah. I want to do a Dr. Evil. $1 billion.
I won't say how much it's worth because I was on the Forbes list and I got really upset I was on the Forbes list. I don't want people to know.
You don't have to say it. I'll say it. It's worth a lot of money. You are back as the CEO after taking a period out. Why did you take a period out?
You know what? I think a lot of people do this when they start businesses. They think, first of all, I don't know if you know this about me. I'm very anti-establishment.
I've noticed it over the course of this conversation.
I just, when I started my blog, when I started on social, when I first started the brand, I didn't want to keep going. Like, I'll just say that right now. Like, I wanted to stop. I didn't want to give up. I just wanted to like be a mom. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I really love being a stay-at-home mom. I like being the homemaker. But my daughter was like, no, you're not staying home. I don't want you to do that. She's like, I want you to be, she told me, she's like, I want you to be Huda Beauty. That's what she called me. She's like, I want you to do that. And she must have been like 6 at the time. And the beauty industry was also in a weird place. And I remember thinking, I have to be here. First of all, my daughters want me at home. Okay, understood. But secondly, I have to be here because I have to be one that evokes change. And influencer brands at the time still had not proven to be successful. The space was still really toxic. The beauty space, I still think it's pretty toxic. There's a lot of like this, the way they sell beauty products to you is they're going to say, oh, you're ugly indirectly. This is beauty. You have to buy this in order to be beautiful. And I just hated that. I felt it my entire life. I think my message is like, you don't need the makeup to be beautiful. I know we sell products, but you don't need the makeup to be beautiful.
That's a very risky strategy.
But it's true.
Okay.
It's true. No matter how much makeup you put on, like for me, the makeup just makes me feel so incredible that I feel really powerful. It does make me feel better. But you when you take it off, you still have to feel good. If you put makeup on to cover up something, it's never going to work. It's never going to solve the problem.
And that's been your strategy from the beginning? That's what helped you build it up?
It's why I got into it. It's why I started.
That's what made Huda Kattan, Huda Beauty?
That's what made me.
I said to a colleague, I'm interviewing Huda Kattan, and they went, I don't know who that is. And I said, she runs a company, Huda Beauty. Then it changed with I love that.
People call me Huda Beauty.
Yeah, just literally, they don't know Kattan. They're like, Huda Beauty. That's what they know you. I just started a business this year.
Oh, well, congrats.
It's called Zateo.
Wow, I've heard of it.
I just launched it.
Can I tell you?
I've never run a business. Please.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you very much. But I've never run a business in my life. People told me, friends of mine, like, what are you doing? Yeah. You can't run a business. You have no business skills. You can't be a CEO.
I think you're going to change the world.
I'm 8 months in. What advice do you have for small business owner Mehdi Hassan?
I think you're going to change the world. I know for a fact you are. I know for a fact you are.
How do I do that? Business-wise, what should I be doing? What's your advice to a young entrepreneur? No, I mean, I'm old, but a new entrepreneur. I wish I was young, but a new entrepreneur.
I mean, I don't know. I think that each person is different. Each industry is different. Obviously, you're selling kind of like a little bit of a product and service mixed together. But I mean, this is going to sound really lame, but I think it's important to stay true to who you are. We get so inspired by everyone else who's doing things. We see, oh my God, this person's doing it. I need to do that too. But then you just blend in with everyone.
Be authentic.
Yeah, just be who you are. I mean, they use the word authentic. I hate that word.
Original. Be you.
Be you.
Be you.
Yeah,
there
be
you go.
You.
Before we wrap up, I got to ask about something you just mentioned. You said the toxic beauty industry, right? And it's very white also, the beauty industry, as you know, in its ownership, its advertising, its products, the models,
very French,
the customers.
yeah.
Well, we're in Europe right now. We're not in France, we're in the UK. But in Europe, I looked this up, 85% of all beauty executives are white. 65% of all beauty industry executives are men. And of course, historically in US markets, Western markets, beauty products have been primarily marketed to white women. Were you thinking about how white the industry was when you started Huda Beauty? Do you think I have to break into this white industry, or was that not a consideration?
I think I was thinking about a few things. First of all, it's very white, and it just wasn't any type of minority. Like, I'm not only white, I'm also Muslim. So there's also that too. Like, it also feels like when you go into it as a Muslim, it's very difficult because people have a lot of conversations and a lot of opinions when it comes to beauty and the religion behind it too. So I definitely had to kind of pick a certain perspective, and for me, it's always just been about I don't know, just showcasing different beauty. Like, even if you went to our page in the very, very beginning, our Instagram page, I never wanted it to be like one thing. I wanted you to see many different types of perspectives. And I feel like that's just super important. Beauty doesn't belong, the perspective of beauty doesn't belong to any one person, doesn't belong to any one brand, doesn't belong to any one magazine. It belongs to everyone. Like, everyone has a different opinion.
But that opinion gets kind of homogenized by fashion industry, beauty industry.
Exactly.
We both have daughters. How do we, I don't want to say educate, it sounds patronizing, but how do we show our daughters a better way, or that convince them that they don't need to fall for some of this stuff?
Yeah, it's hard, especially in this day and age. And I struggle.
I mean, you're an insider, so you have more credibility with your daughter than I do.
Yeah.
I'm just a journalist dad. You don't know anything about this stuff.
Well, I mean, you know a lot about social though. And you're on
social media plays for sure.
Yeah, and
which is a double-edged sword.
It's very difficult. And my daughter, who has I'm struggling right now, just honestly speaking, with my daughter, who's exposed to so much, who's exposed to makeup is in every single room in our house. I literally have a little mini Sephora store in my house. I'm not joking. I stock up on products and everything.
On your own
there.
products?
On
everyone.
Mostly my own products, but other products too. And my daughter can literally just go downstairs and shop.
That's hilarious.
Like, she just goes in there, and I'm like, I see the products in her room. Like, well, you just took my product, and she's like, no, it's mine. I found it in the library.
So does that worry you?
It worries me because it just sometimes feels like you have to be very, very careful. Like, you might think it's innocent. You might think, people are commenting she looks pretty, but is she going to think that her value only comes from her appearance? Is she going to, become so self-absorbed? Is she going to be working on herself in other areas of her life? As a Muslim, is she going to care about other very important things, such as her religion, her deen? Do you
worry that if you say that, she'll say, you of all people, Mum, can't tell me this.
I do say it to her.
You run $1 billion beauty business. How can you tell me this?
No, what's so funny is I say it to her all the time, but she doesn't question me on it because she knows how important it is to me. But it is the most difficult thing that I'm struggling with right now, is how to raise my daughter being who I am in this world, and her being exposed to so much. It's really a challenge. I'm struggling with it.
Are you going to be the brown parent who says you got to be a doctor or engineer?
I asked her if she wanted to be an architect.
Okay, nice.
We're
creative.
That. Yeah.
That's creative.
Engineering in there, like some math.
That's some math in there.
Yeah, I guess I am that parent.
I've become that person. I was the guy who used to make jokes about Asian parents, brown parents say, why'd you get 98%? Why didn't you get the other 2%? And now I do that with
Do
my
you
kids.
Do that?
I do. I was like, why didn't you get that?
But
why A-? Why not A+?
But to be fair, we need more doctors in the world. I feel like nobody wants to be a doctor anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Because of the pay? Even
though
they're still well paid in the US. But
because of the pay, but also I feel like everybody's just moving into these quick things. Like, people want to move quicker.
What I say to brown parents is, if you have 4 kids, maybe only 3 of them need to be doctors, and 1 can do something different. I think that's a fair balance for the.
But you both ended up being journalists in your family.
That's true. I don't know what my kids will be. I don't think they'll end up being journalists. What is next? For Huda Kattan? What is your next plan to take over the world in 2025?
Well, I'm really excited for what we have planned for our brand, of course. But I'm starting my personal venture, which is a podcast.
Fantastic.
But not a podcast like this. I'm not doing sit-down podcast yet.
Stand-up
I will
podcast.
have you on. Stand-up podcast. I will have you on when I do that.
I would love to be on your podcast.
Yeah, but I'm starting out just I just want snippets, like small little bite-sized pieces of content on Instagram, just like feel-good content.
Interesting.
Just talking about real things, because
that's
I feel
your plan in 25. You want to
2025
add that to everything else you're already doing. So I have to update my list at the beginning to do
podcaster.
Add to your to your repertoire.
That's what I'm going to be.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed being on this podcast.
Thank you.
It's been an absolutely fantastic conversation.
Thank you so much.
We covered a lot.
Oh my God.
While you're on holiday.
That was
I interrupted your holiday to have this great conversation.
I'm on holiday, but I was most excited about this for the whole holiday.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mehdi Hassan.
And I'm Huda Kattan.
And we were not kidding. We're Not Kidding is a Zeteo production. I'm your host, Mehdi Hassan, and today's co-host was Huda Kattan. Our executive producer is Kieran Alvey. Our senior producer and editor is Frank Capello. Our music was composed by Andy Clausen. Our design is by Alicia Tetone. Our mix engineer is Valentino Rivera, and the title card animation is by Ehsan Mezghali.